Good morning, and thanks everyone for joining us for our final session. We're in the home stretch, first ever after school virtual conference. I want to just take this final moment to thank everybody for participating, everybody who has joined us for these variety of sessions, and also our wonderful sponsors and partner organizations who have made this happen. The Louisiana Department of Education, Kenya Jenkins, Dr. Terry Bird, also Louisiana Tech University and SciTech, Dr. Lindsay Keith Vincent and Diane Madden for helping us with the CEU credits that everybody is going to, I'm sure, take advantage of, and as well as the Mott Foundation for putting together some great speakers and connecting us with opportunities. And most importantly, all of you who have participated and joined us on this Saturday. Final one, and boy, do we've got a great speaker for you today. An amazing story. I really don't want to steal his thunder, so I am going to turn it over to Captain Barrington Irving to, I'm sure he's going to tell us his story and then just give you some very insightful stuff into what he does through his flying classroom program. So, Captain, thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm also here, Rajiv from the Flying Classroom. And before we introduce Captain Irvin, I would love to play a really quick introduction video that talks a little bit more about who Captain Irvin is and the amazing things we do around the world to truly highlight the aviation world and the STEM world, or science, technology, engineering, and math. And I really want you guys to check out these exhibitions. So sit back, relax, enjoy this video, and we'll be right back with you guys.
At the age of 19, he learned to fly and forever touched the sky. At 21, he launched nonprofit Experience Aviation. At 23, he became by far the youngest person to fly around the world solo. At 24, he challenged 60 students to build an airplane and piloted its test flight. At 26, he received the NASA Trailblazer Award. At 28, he was one of 15 adventurers selected as a National Geographic Emerging Explorer. At 30, he launched Flying Classroom. He is a mentor, educator, humanitarian, and inspirational pilot. He is Captain Barrington Irving. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, raised in Miami's inner city, his life changed forever when he met Captain Gary Robinson.
He's an amazing football player. Already at that age, had colleges looking for him and was doing very well in school. And so I said, hey, have you ever thought about flying? He said, I'm not smart enough to fly.
And his response to me not only provoked interest in aviation, but that interest in aviation turned into passion.
Barrington comes to me one day and says, I want to be the youngest pilot and the first pilot to fly around the world solo.
When I met him, I basically said, what are you talking about that you want to fly around the world?
On March 23, 2007, Barrington took off in his Columbia 400 named Inspiration. 97 days later, on June 27th, he returned.
All of us in tears, just at the gift of him coming home safely.
And when I opened that cockpit door, I immediately knew that was my responsibility, was to empower young people. So what did I do? I literally surrounded myself with the business aviation community, and we started to create programs within Experience Aviation, STEM Plus programs. What the plus represents, how do you use aviation to achieve your highest self?
We knew that we had an opportunity to create a revolution in education, and I felt Barrington was that person.
How could we tie the real world into the classroom? I think that's exactly what he's doing.
Barrington always reaches to the next level.
Thank you, Barrington, for broadening my horizon on my outlook of aviation.
I wouldn't be where I am without Barrington as far as a line service technician.
Barrington Irving is a superhero, a trailblazer.
relentless in changing the world for better.
Barrington touched thousands of young people's lives.
And I saw in the eyes of those kids.
Well, all right, without further ado, I want to introduce Captain Irving to you guys, our CEO, founder, and lead explorer with the Flying Classroom, who is going to take you guys on a mini journey around the world. So Captain Irving, the show is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rajiv. I'm very excited to share with you all today and, talk a little bit about my STEM Plus journey. I know you just saw a video filled with a bunch of different accolades and stuff, but let me first start off and be blunt and honest. I honestly had no expectation of really doing anything in STEM. And one of my biggest challenges while growing up is that my teachers, they honestly struggle to help me understand that fundamental question: when will I ever utilize this stuff in life? Why does it matter? Who honestly cares? And it's actually amazing. Number one, let me first recognize Louisiana Center for After-School Learning, also Louisiana Department of Education as well, Dr. Bird and Ms. Jenkins as well. I just wanted to thank all of you, Andrew and team. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of our story. Right now, I'm broadcasting to you from Miami, Florida. We are based in Miami, Florida, and I'll jump right into it. So I was born in Jamaica. That's an image of me with my little lunchbox there. I was born in Jamaica, and at the age of 6, our family, we moved to Miami, Florida, came as an immigrant to this country, didn't have much. And I grew up in 2 of the 3 worst neighborhoods in Miami. That was Liberty City, as well as Opelika, Florida. While growing up, I played football, and I ended up playing football for a high school team, Miami Northwestern Senior High School, that was ranked #1, not only in the state of Florida, we were ranked #1 in the entire country. So naturally, I was one of those kids who said, I want to grow up and play in the NFL, and I had tremendous reason to think so because, quite honestly, I played for a team that was ranked #1 in the country. So playing in the NFL was my dream. It was something that I wanted to do. But then that began to change, and you'll see in the next slide. One day I'm in a store, and I'm looking out the window of the store, and I see this guy step out of a really nice, luxurious truck. And he was dressed in this uniform. I honestly didn't have a clue what his uniform represented. And I said to myself, this is interesting, right? Because I saw he had a nice watch on, nice bracelet, and I'm just looking at this guy saying to myself, this brother looks like he makes a ton of money. And he walks into the store, sees that I'm staring at him, and he approaches me and he says to me, hey son, have you ever thought about becoming a pilot? And the first words out of my mouth, I said, sir, I don't think I'm smart enough to fly an aircraft. So I asked him one pivotal question, and that question was this. I said, man, how much money do you make? And he leaned over, whispered to me, and said to me, son, I make $117 an hour. And when he said that, I looked up at him and it was as if the heavens were behind him. And I said to him, legally? And he's like, yeah, this is a real job. This is what I do. This is how much money I make. And you could do the same thing. Now, that's where my interest in aviation began, through a random chance meeting with a Black professional that I just never would have naturally had access to. So we go on to the next slide. Although I had interest in aviation, I needed a bit of a push, right? So this was my former high school teacher. She taught social studies. Her name is Miss Batiste. By the way, her 80th birthday is today. And Miss Batiste, take a really close look at her face. You can probably tell this woman doesn't play. And she's probably zero tolerance, which she is. And when I was in school, I honestly couldn't stand this woman, right? I honestly could not stand Miss Batiste. I thought she gave way too much homework, way too much classwork, and I couldn't wait to just get out of her class. However, what I didn't realize at the time is that Miss Batiste saw more potential in me than I even saw in myself. So Miss Batiste would constantly nag me and say to me, Barrington, forget about football, pursue a career in aviation. And she nagged me over and over and over again. And I ended up turning down my football scholarship to pursue a career in aviation, thanks to a woman who I couldn't stand. And I know recently we just celebrated Teacher and Educator Appreciation Week. And if it wasn't for a teacher, I would not be sitting here. A teacher who thought so much more of me. And I was willing to eventually listen to her. And I ended up turning down football to pursue a career in aviation, one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I look at guys who I played ball with, and some of them did make it to the NFL. But thanks to STEM, I've been able to make more money than all of those guys combined, right? And when we talk about STEM stereotypes and you know, what does a STEM professional look like? Who can get involved in STEM and so forth? My teacher saw that in me, even when I did not see that in myself. So we go on to the next slide. So when I said, so Miss Batiste, she helped me tremendously because I said, all right, I'm going to turn down football, pursue a career in aviation. And my parents looked at me and said, great. However, we can't afford to pay for you to go to school. So Ms. Batiste helped me get into my local community college. Then I transferred to a HBCU, Florida Memorial University, and I majored in aeronautical science thanks to her. During that whole process, my other mentor, Captain Robinson, challenged me to give back. And that's how the whole concept of flying around the world came to be. Before I knew about setting any records, I said to myself, okay, what could I possibly do to give back? And I said, well, what if I flew around the world to inspire a bunch of students and just show them what could be accomplished through aviation? Saying it was easy, executing it was hard. This is one of my rejection letters you're looking at here on the screen. This letter came from Coca-Cola. You're going to notice, highlighted there, they say, here at the headquarters, we focus on events and programs that are national or international in scope when considering sponsorship requests. And I'm saying to myself, well, you can't get more national or international in scope than flying around the world. So I started to realize people weren't paying attention to the letters I was sending, the requests I was making, and they probably didn't think I was for real. So in the next slide, you'll see, this is the one pair of dress shoes I owned at the time. Notice how many holes I have in the bottom of those shoes. 3 holes in the bottom of those shoes. And I know all of us have different stories of the challenges we've overcome in life in order to get to where we are. This means a lot to me, and I share it with our team members here at the Flying Classroom, as well as our students and my very own kids, to show them this is where I started. This is where I came from. And I wore these shoes, as you'll see in the next slide, to major aviation events like this one, walking from booth to booth, trying to figure out how exactly will I be able to fly around the world. Now you're about to see in the next slide, this was the aircraft that I utilized in order to fly around the world. Now this plane cost $650,000. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't get anyone to rent me an airplane, lease me an airplane, let me borrow one, nothing. So this was a real challenge for me in a number of different facets, because in order to fly around the world, you need an airplane. And I was really frustrated trying to think through, man, how can I get around this? Nobody is willing to take a chance on me because they thought it was too dangerous. The youngest person to fly around the world prior to me was 37 years of age. I was able to accomplish at the age of 23, but before I got there, I needed an airplane. And I'll never forget, I was sitting down on my bedroom floor and I was just extremely frustrated. And then I had this light bulb moment. And what happened was I started to think about things, and I said to myself, hold on. When people steal cars, they bring them into my neighborhood, right? And the next thing they do is they strip all the different parts of the car and sell it illegally. So I said to myself, hold on. If different companies manufacture different parts of a car, I wonder if different companies manufacture different parts of a plane. Sure enough, that was the case. And I studied all the different companies who made different parts of this airplane. And I said to myself, okay, I think I have an approach to this. So I approached every single company one by one. And instead of asking them for money, I simply asked them for the one part they manufactured. And I promised them, hey, I'll create some type of sponsorship package, but their logo will be on the aircraft, and I'm going to get other companies to do it. For example, the propeller cost $30,000, engine $83,000, navigation equipment $70,000, 4 seats in the plane $30,000. List goes on and on and on, and I was able to outsmart the industry, use some street knowledge, and piece together a $650,000 airplane, just quite honestly, based off a street hustle. And that's how it started to come together. Now you'll see in the next slide, this is what it looked like inside of the aircraft. I had to be more than a pilot because I had no weather radar. I had no de-icing equipment. Extremely dangerous to try to do this type of a flight where you're in the aircraft by yourself, sitting for as long as 10, 12, 14 hours at a time. No one to speak to because you're at a much lower altitude than where the airlines are. And this was extremely dangerous. That suit that I'm wearing costs $20,000. That's a special survival suit where if I made an emergency landing in freezing water, this suit would give me X amount of minutes to get myself out of the plane, out of the freezing water, and into a life raft. One of the most challenging things about this trip is dealing with the weather, right? Very extreme weather. I've flown through sandstorms, monsoons, severe icing, and truly a blessing that I'm alive to speak to you guys today because the technology was not there back in 2007 as it relates to weather radar and so forth. I had some really close calls, but I worked with a great team of people in order to pull off such a challenging mission. You'll see in the next slide. Flying around the world took me 97 days, 145 flight hours. I made 27 stops in 13 countries. And I'm saying to myself, okay, now it's my turn to make $117 an hour. I had a number of job offers from the airlines as well as private individuals. Within the industry. And this woman writes in a letter to my team. At the time, she was an elementary school teacher, but now she is an elementary school principal. And she writes in a letter to my team, thanking me for flying around the world. She mentioned the fact that she had no maps in her classroom, no globes in her classroom. So she traveled to Walmart, purchased a shower curtain with the world on it, brought it into her classroom, and everywhere I was traveling to, she started to create lessons. So in creating these lessons, she thanked me for inspiring students, but she begged me to empower them. And that letter really touched me because I'll be quite honest, I thought I would be the worst example within education. And part of the reason for that is I never really took school seriously. I mean, half of my teachers were gambling on our football games because we were the local, we were the economy there, right? People are gambling on our games. We never really got in trouble as football players. So I never really took education that seriously. And because of this woman and the letter that she wrote, That's what got me into education and to start to create the flying classroom. So I want to play a video in the next slide that gives you a brief highlight of what we do at the flying classroom. That race car was built by 5th graders to 8th graders.
Flying Classroom lead explorers and explorers. I just want to welcome you guys to a brand new school year. Flying Classroom is about to launch version 3.0 of our online portal. You're going to find a number of new expeditions our team accomplished all over the world. Quick question. Are you ready to engage and see us bring the world to your classroom? Are you ready to explore? And are you ready to innovate? I can't wait to see your engineering design challenges and for you all to realize your very own greatness. On to our next adventure, Blue Skies.
So remember that question I had growing up, right? When will I ever utilize this stuff in life? Why does it matter? Who honestly cares? As part of what we do at Flying Classroom, where we literally transform our airplanes into a real life magic school bus and travel around the world to practically explore core standards of what kids have to learn. Now, I know coronavirus, especially a COVID-19, has created a number of changes within education and adjustments. But one of the saddest things that took place is a lot of adults, unfortunately, stopped talking to kids when this became a real issue. So back in February and March of last year, when things were starting to shut down, a number of students started to reach out to us at Flying Classroom from different parts of the country. And, you know, kids sensed what was going on, but unfortunately, they just didn't have adults that were talking to them. And even whether it's creating a meaningful moment or a teachable moment, that just wasn't taking place. So while, you know, everyone was panicking and freaking out in a number of different capacities, I just said to my team, guys, let's just start talking to kids. It's great therapy. Let's start talking to kids and helping them as they're going through this. So we started to look at the devastation that COVID was creating. How could we create teachable moments around them? And one of the things we started to do was take our expedition. So at Flying Classroom, we've done over 63 different expeditions in different parts of the world. Now, one of the things about coronavirus is we've known about this virus since the 1960s. So what has happened? What has changed? Well, the virus has evolved, right? The same way a child evolves to a teenager and into an adult, viruses do the same thing. Now, one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize is coronavirus is also a parasite, right? And we have an expedition focused on parasites. So in the next slide, I'm about to show you guys a video that really touches on this in greater detail. So I want you all to notice this wasp is injecting something into this caterpillar. Now notice the caterpillar is going to live a normal life and do its thing. But I want you to look at what starts to grow out of the body of the caterpillar. Now the caterpillar survives this process. Then its mind is controlled to spin a cocoon and protect the larvae that just came out of its body. Why? There's another type of parasitic wasp that wants to get to it. You have certain plants in the jungle that releases spores, infects the body of an ant, forces the ant to climb to the top of the jungle canopy, uses the dead tissue of the ant to grow that spore. The wind carries the spore, and then the plant can reproduce. You have certain worms that want to travel to a new water source. So what do? Infect the body of a cricket, force the cricket to go for a few miles to a new water source, drowns the cricket, and then the worm has a new home. This is what we do around STEM Plus as it relates to Flying Classroom. Yes, are kids going to be saying, ew, that's gross and so forth? Absolutely. But we give meaningful purpose to core content of what kids have to learn in school, right? When will you ever use these things in life? Why does it matter? We go on to the next slide. Here's an example of one in the next slide. So let's talk about this, right? So before all y'all judge me, and I know I'm gonna get a ton of comments and questions, this is a picture of me eating a fruit bat. Now, this was way before COVID-19 became a real issue for the world, but we decided to pivot around this and make it more than just an interesting experience eating something different. We wanted to touch on something that created a genuine teachable moment for students. We'll go on to the next slide. And forgive me, I know some of you guys might have just had breakfast or preparing for lunch. But in the next slide, you're going to see a video of what it looked like while we were eating this fruit bat. So this was done in Koror, Palau, and I was with the royal family.
Not with this fruit bat anymore. Time to do this.
So one of the things I did not expect.
Not playing around with this fruit bat anymore.
Sorry about the tech glitching here.
Time to do this.
One of the things I did not expect is that with the fruit bat, I thought it would be gutted, right? Like when you eat a fillet of fish. However, that was not the case. So all the organs and everything was inside of it. Now, what is the teachable moment behind this? Other than culinary, right? What is the teachable moment behind this? Well, what does it take for a virus to pass from an animal to a human being? It's not as easy as we think, right? You need a very special formula for a virus to pass from an animal to a human being. And, this is just one fun highlight, but it creates purpose and meaningful moments behind what we're doing as we share it with kids. Now, the bat was dipped in coconut sauce, so that helped a bit. But one of the biggest challenges behind eating a fruit bat is getting the hair of the bat stuck in your teeth. That was just crazy. Yes, it's a very gummy texture, but getting the hair of the bat stuck in your teeth, yeah, that was really difficult, right? But these things help to break down STEM stereotypes. All right, we're going to the next slide. Sorry for grossing you guys out. But as I mentioned, at Flying Classroom, we've done over 63 different expeditions in different parts of the world. Someone just asked me, did it taste like chicken? They said it tastes like chicken. I'm gonna tell you this, it did not taste like chicken. I don't even know what to describe it tasting like, to be honest with you. I wish at least they fried the bat, but yeah, that was an interesting experience, right? But understand this too, there is nothing new about eating bats. The same way we have an abundance of birds in the United States, in North America, there is an abundance of bats in other parts of the world. And bats has been proven to be a great source of nutrition, and even early human beings, that was part of their diet as well. I know it sounds crazy, but these are the things we explore at Flying Classroom. And like, for example, on the right-hand side of the screen, that is not a alligator we're working with. That's a 13-foot long crocodile we're working with in Darwin, Australia. In the middle of the screen, you see I'm holding a beautiful shell in my hand. Well, that's one of the most deadliest creatures in the ocean. We have no anti-venom on Earth that can break down its toxin. That is a cone snail. You all might be starting to see a pattern here, right? Where, somebody just told me you guys have a lot of bats here in Louisiana. Oh, I'm hearing a teacher expedition or something. That's another thing I'll talk to you guys about But, you know, we want to practically explore these things. Now, how do you do that now that you have some students at home or some students in the classroom? And before I play this next video that's coming up, one of the things I want to share with you all is at Flying Classroom, we realize one of the greatest challenges right now within education is not only content, but also instructional support. So we decided to kind of flip the model around that and say, what if an educator can have specialists and people pipe into a classroom, whether they're at home or virtual, instruct them, provide all the materials and so forth, and create meaningful learning at the same time, right? Because educators need support. So we'll go on to the next slide, and here's a quick video clip highlight of that. No, I'm sorry, I think Rajiv is having some issues there with the presentation. So Rajiv, it's the next slide and it's a video.
Hi everyone, it's Captain Irving. In 2007, I set a Guinness World Record of becoming.
So this shows you an overview of what we're doing
black man to fly
from
solo
direct instruction
I'm
to
also a
material.
National Geographic explorer and founder of the amazing Flying Classroom curriculum. In partnership with your school district and school, you all will have the amazing opportunity to immerse yourselves in fun and engaging STEM Plus content and conduct real-time engineering design challenges with all the materials provided to you. Get excited and get ready to engage, explore, and innovate. I hope you're ready because the Flying Classroom is taking you on a virtual journey around the world. We've conducted over 57 amazing expedition lessons, which includes catching sea snakes, exploring food waste, conducting surgery on a 300-pound tiger, jumping out of a plane at 30,000 feet, and even conducting eye surgery with the Flying Eye Hospital, and many more lessons to choose from. You all will virtually join our teams to experience different expeditions around the world. We have a number of expeditions you can experience right from home. In addition, you are going to receive your very own material kits as well. Yes, I said it, a kit with fun materials where you can engage, explore, and innovate with us. By the way, my awesome team members will be your virtual teachers who will open up a different world of learning. I can't wait to soar with you all. Who says learning can't be fun, amazing, and inspiring? Get ready to have a blast. Slots are limited, and more information will be provided in the near future. Blue skies.
So that's just a sample of what we're doing for programs, after school, summer programs as well. This is what Flying Classroom looks like prior to COVID-19, right? And in the next slide, you'll see this is what it looks like as well now. Now, one of the things we realized after spending 20 weeks of just talking to kids in different parts of the country is that we started to hear some mumbling amongst students where what they were saying was this. They're starting to say, man, I wish our school wouldn't just put things into a Ziploc bag and just give it to us. And our Flying Classroom team was trying to understand, well, what's the big deal about that? What's the issue? Well, what we realized is that kids, what they wanted was an experience, right? And also they wanted things to be branded in a way that made them feel special. The same way you get a Nike shoe box or whatever brand of shoes or whatever the case may be, they wanted something to be branded that made them feel special or unique in the process. So we started to really look into that, not only of how we package materials, but you also see in the next slide, how do you make children feel in the process, whether they're at home or whether they're in the classroom, it doesn't matter, right? And part of what we did, you'll see in the next slide, we work with all different types of students, kindergarten all the way up to high school. Doesn't matter, their background or where they come from. Now, I want to share a special video because we've had a chance to start to expand our work in Louisiana, and we had a chance to work with Arise Schools. So a few months ago, we flew in and actually delivered the material kits. Of course, social distancing was practiced, all those different things, and give students an experience where we fly locally into their community, in their backyard, and explore a little bit of STEM with them. Here's a quick highlight of them.
Hello everyone, it's Captain Barrington Irving. Today we are in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we are so excited that Flying Classroom is launching with a number of 21st century programs. Hosted by Atlantic Aviation, I am truly excited today to welcome students from Arise Schools.
Today we brought about 12 to 15 of our scholars here to experience the aviation process, and we were able to actually tour the facility and also tour a plane, and we also had the opportunity to watch a plane take off.
Today I went on a tour and we kind of looked around the whole building.
We took them on a tour of the facility and talked about a day in the life of what happens here at a FBO.
My favorite part about the tour is that I got on a plane. This was my first time on the airplane. I got to see all the engines and what they do.
These things are extremely important to the scholars that we serve, because so many times they don't have the opportunity to witness or to participate in things of this magnitude. These things can affect the child for the rest of their lives, and all we want is positive things poured into our children. So this is extremely important and exciting opportunity for us today.
I hope that they've learned about the different career opportunities are available to them in aviation, and to learn that, everything in life is about service, whether it's to a customer or to somebody even in life, that service is everything. You always do and give your best, and people remember that, and it goes a long way.
Knowing that their world is the oyster, that they can be anything and do anything and accomplish anything in the whole wide world. Flying Classroom, we're so excited to partner with you, and we cannot wait for all the possibilities of this new partnership.
Absolutely. And so I see in the chat, some of you guys are sending me messages. I love this. We have Baton Rouge in the house. I could fly into Baton Rouge. Look, what we believe in at Flying Classroom, I want to make this very clear to everyone. We don't do any advertising. We honestly don't. I have never advertised anything of Flying Classroom since we've opened up in 2014. Now, do we get asked to speak at conferences and stuff like that? Absolutely. But our growth, serving now more than 800 schools across this country, our growth has been purely organic and through word of mouth. And I know some of you have sent me messages, so I put my email in the chat as well. Don't worry, guys. We have a nice laid out session for you to really immerse you around this experience and what this means. And I'd love to visit more places within the state of Louisiana. And we're very grateful for the opportunity. The Louisiana Center for After-School Learning, as well as Louisiana DOE, wants to expose more programs within after-school and extended learning towards STEM plus education. So we are grateful for the opportunity to share our story with you all. And feel free to email us. We're more than happy to speak further and share more about implementation and what it looks like. No two schools are the same. No two programs are the same. We've learned that over and over again, and we're happy to customize and support. So let me talk a little bit about some of our expeditions, right? This is one we did to teach kids about the human eye. Teachers access, so our content is driven by educators from around the country who will say, man, I'm tired of doing it this way. Can you do this or bring life to this? So teachers asked us to bring life to the human eye. So we decided to partner with Orbis which is known as the Flying Eye Hospital. What they did was they basically transformed this aircraft into a flying eye hospital that travels to different parts of the country, right? And I'm sorry, not different parts of the country, different parts of the world who do not have access and resources in order to perform eye surgery. So you'll see in the next slide, this was one of our patients, okay? The needle that's in his eye is about this long. And I know this is a little bit gross, but kids love seeing this stuff. Let me tell you all something. One of the things that I realized very early on is that when it comes to education, the first thing we're in business of doing is sales. If I cannot sell you on what you're about to learn, why does it matter? Adults are no different. Think about all the different rewards programs you're a part of, right? You think about all of these different companies, whether it's a Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever, Nike, whoever. These brands have figured out how to engage kids. Yet still, the one industry that has spent billions of dollars in research is still struggling with that core fundamental. We're in the business of selling to kids first. So here's a quick video highlight of what the experience was like working, in the next slide, working with the Flying Eye Hospital.
Flying Classroom, I'm in Kingston, Jamaica, my homeland and country of birth. I'm working with Orbis, the Flying Eye Hospital. Do you know in the Caribbean and throughout the world, over 253 million people battle blindness?
This is the Flying Eye Hospital. It's an onboard eye care facility that's able to give the highest level of eye care no matter where we are in the world. But it's really designed to teach. We've got a classroom and now a state-of-the-art simulation center.
I can show you whenever the eye moves.
Oh, it moves like a real eye.
It moves like a real eye right there.
Already on the first day post-op, we saw that he could see about 20/40, which means that he could really drive a car. That was his only eye, and that's a big, big difference from going from legally blind to being able to drive one day after surgery.
Now, how does this translate to the classroom, right? I'm going to have Rajiv play a video for me of a Saturday camp with a group of fifth through eighth graders that they were given the opportunity to dissect a cow's eyeball, right? And what started to organically happen is parents just started jumping in like crazy, talking about the experience and sharing a number of different things. This is what the Flying Classroom experience looks like for children.
So this is the cow's eyeball section.
You know, a lot of coordination goes into it, but we package all the materials for the kids.
This has been a joy, but I had no idea this is what we were signing up for. And I had no idea I was signing myself up too. But anyway,
there's a section where the black part meets the white hard section.
So everything is plastic except for the scissors they're using to cut.
You want to use your pair of scissors and just puncture a hole through and cut all the way around.
What a great session today. I actually saw a lot of parents. How about my parents were actually on dissecting and helping and supporting our
Notice the young people that we utilize. I'm going to talk more about that.
Everything you guys do, it's a pleasure to see people like you. It's so nice to have people engaged with young people to do stuff like this. I am really pleased with the program, and if they have opportunity to continue on program.
You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, you'll see like 200 and some odd kids at a time, 300 kids at a time.
It's nice to put the hands on something. It's always nice to experiment things on life. Not because you're going to leave off, but because it's important for our young people learn what is around them. And I really, really appreciate it. I have totally no words to say how much I appreciate you guys, the opportunity that you give it to our youth.
But I really enjoy it that you're giving them an opportunity to see outside of what's in the school books and giving them opportunity to broaden their mind, to think past, just the mundane everyday, just passing grades and getting on to the next class, because now they can actually set their mind towards, other goals. I really appreciate this format, especially during this pandemic, to give the kids something else to do. And anything else you have, we'll definitely try to sign up for. So thank you all so much.
So that's just one testimonial, right? And we're seeing this over and over again. I want to be very clear. We have no prerequisite for the kids that are participating with us, right? It's literally open arm policy, and we're doing this with all different types of students, even students who may have different learning challenges. Now, one of the things that you all might have noticed in that video is you saw a number of young people, right? One of the things that I took a big hit on last year, schools were saying to me, oh, there's just, no, we want all professional teachers. We want all professional teachers. And I kept on saying this over and over again. I said, guys, the content needs to be certified. Yes, aligned to standards, absolutely. But the people delivering it needs to be passionate. And I got some large and mid-sized school districts and even some small ones. I said, look, give me a chance. If it doesn't work, I'll refund you. Give me a chance to test this. If it doesn't work, I'll refund you. And what I decided to do was take a mixture of professional educators mixed in with college students who are studying to become educators, as well as folks, college students who are studying in different fields of STEM. One of the smartest moves we've ever made within Flying Classroom, because one of the things we can never replace is age. Even for me, right? I'm 37 years of age, right? I can never replace what it means for a young person to communicate with someone in their 20s. They're more open. They're more willing to ask questions, right? And we started to do this, and we saw a tremendous amount of success around it. And now the schools are demanding now that we continue to have young people as part of this ecosystem, right? So they are demanding that we have young people as part of the ecosystem. Take a look at this image on the screen, for example. You're going to notice teachers were saying to us, man, we're tired of doing rock scratch tests. Can you bring this to life? Can you do something different? So we decided to go to Iceland and dive. This is a very dangerous dive to do that allowed us to touch 2 continents at the same time. So I'm touching North America's tectonic plate as well as Europe's tectonic plate at the same time. This is a very dangerous dive. One of our camera guys, his body actually went into shock when we did this dive. Now let's go on to the next slide. This one, we wanted to highlight the nervous system, right? So we wanted to highlight the nervous system and touch on a number of different things. So yes, the sea snake is a very deadly creature. And when we did this expedition, the country would not allow us to bring any anti-venom. We had to be on point with this expedition because the closest hospital was 8 hours away by airplane. And if a sea snake bites you, you have about 20 to 30 minutes to live. Now, as deadly as this creature is, it's also a huge lifesaver, because here's what scientists realize. If you alter the venom that comes from its fangs, as well as its DNA, you can fight against heart attacks, heart disease. You all might have, if you ask a classroom set of kids, how many of you all have family members who suffer from high blood pressure? I guarantee a third to half of the classroom will raise their hands. Well, what do you think is inside some of the powerful medication they give you from the hospital? It's derived from the sea snake. You see, all of this is real world driven, right? And you might have students who love playing around with animals and reptiles. Does any of them know you can make over $1 million a year catching venomous creatures, collecting their venom, and then sending it off to a university lab so that treatments could be created? That's the reality of STEM Plus. And that's part of what we believe at Flying Classroom. We go on the next slide. This is one we did focused on agriculture, right? And I want you guys to notice this is not aquaponics. This is aeroponics. Every single one of these plants have their own email address. Notice in the top left-hand corner what I'm holding in my hand. That's a food computer. This is how we're going to grow food on Mars, on the moon, as well as here on Earth without ever having to step outside. You want the next slide? Here's another one. And this one really touched the nerve with a lot of our student families because, you know, for a period of time, a lot of families were really starving. And this was an expedition we did where we spent 48 hours eating out of dumpsters in San Diego, California, in order to highlight food waste. Now, we didn't just go into any dumpster. This was only behind grocery stores. In our first hour of dumpster diving behind Sprouts grocery store, this is how much food we found. Over 500 pounds, and only 19 pounds of it was spoiled. All right. Now, I want to pause here because I've been seeing a number of comments and stuff in the chat. Once again, I put my email address in the chat. Don't worry, we're going to take an even deeper dive, but I want to open it up a little bit to anyone who might have questions for me. Please feel free to put it in the chat or to unmute yourself. I believe you have the capability maybe to unmute yourself. I'll be corrected if that's incorrect. But would anyone like to share any comments? I'm seeing tons of encouraging comments in the chat already, but I just wanted to pause to ask any question, you know, for you all to ask me any questions, because I know y'all thought I was crazy before, but we're about to jump in even more in the next few minutes. But I wanted to pause and answer any questions or allow anyone to share. Rajiv, do you have anything on your end maybe I missed?
Well, the chat is public, so we all can see. Okay. We just got a lot of, you know, congratulations messages. A few people said they're going to be stealing. The people delivering the information need to be passionate. So a lot of really encouraging words in the chat with your expeditions. But if you guys want to actually be unmuted, feel free. If you cannot unmute yourself, if it is locked, just raise your blue hand on Zoom, and myself or any of the other co-hosts will unmute you guys if you guys want to verbally speak to Captain Irvin. If not, feel free to put your questions or comments in the chat.
Yeah, someone just asked, where did you attend college? I attended college at Florida Memorial University, based here in Miami, Florida, which is an HBCU. I had no clue they offered anything related to aviation, but that's where I got my degree. All right. I've received a few messages.
Barrington, can you tell where all you had football offers from that you turned down?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. North Carolina State, Auburn, University of Florida, Purdue, Rutgers. Trying to remember all the top ones that were in the need of a fullback at the time. Air Force Academy was another one. Wisconsin, Virginia.
And so you turned down all those D1 offers to pursue?
Yes. And you know, honestly, I know a lot of folks think it was a tremendously difficult decision, which it was. But one of the things I had the liberty to see were other athletes who were ahead of me that played at our high school, and they made it to the NFL. But, you know, a few years later, they're back living in the same neighborhood that we came from. So I had a chance to see not everyone will make it if they make it, if you understand what I'm saying. So I had a chance to really see that. And with Miss Batiste pushing me, that changed everything.
And Captain Irvin, I do want to comment on one thing here. Someone in the chat said I think the kit idea will stay even after we get back to 100% in person. We have found it very effective. And I know here at Flying Classroom, we're going to be working with a number of different school districts across the nation in the next school year. And so maybe that's something that you want to touch on as well.
Yes, yes. So we've seen that as well. One of the things we're seeing a lot of educators ask us is not to change this model, which we do not plan to do in any way, shape, or form. Packaging STEM kits can be a headache. And I'm probably talking to a few folks on the line that have maybe attempted it, because one of our expeditions could easily have 16, 18, 23 different items that ties to that expedition. The branding, the way things are packaged, that streamlines distribution to families makes a world of difference. And we've been getting a ton of praise on that. And we've also been getting, a lot of folks who are opening back up schools saying, hey, I do want an expert or someone to come into my classroom virtually, whether my kids are physically in the classroom or some are learning at home. And I mean, we honestly have to ask ourselves the question, what is the value of 60 minutes, 120 minutes a week for a teacher? It's huge. And let me tell you why I say that, because look, I get to fly my own airplane and we travel different parts of the country. And yes, people look at private aviation and they look at it as if it's luxury. But you know what they truly don't understand? It's a time machine. So I look at educators as mini CEOs walking around, right? And you have an employee group of students that could range anywhere from 40 kids to 50 to 100 to 100, to 200, 300 kids. If someone who runs a company with 50 employees needs the use of a private jet to save time, what does that say for a teacher who works with a group of 40, 50, 100, 200, 300 kids at a time, right? And that's part of the philosophy of what we believe at Flying Classroom, just from our own experience. So I'm pretty excited to share even more with you all. And I know you might be wondering, well, what does this look like for younger kids in a classroom? And there's a small school district we work with not too far from you all in Texas, in the Waco area. And I want Rajiv to talk about that. Dr. Bird just sent me a message. Please share about Uber Air. Yep, we got that one queued up too as well. So let's jump right back in it. We're gonna show you some pretty amazing things as well. So I want you all to see what the experience looks like for even younger kids located within a facility doing a program after school.
We're going to be taking you guys on a series of expeditions around the world with Captain Irving, and you guys get a chance to build a project-based learning activity throughout his expedition.
I love the fact that I can see you guys like this. This is a great video. This is the perfect location to see everybody. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Oh, a little bit at a time. Nice.
How many sets of wings do honeybees have?
2.
Is it 1 or 2?
2.
All right, put that in. Yep.
Work it. Work them hands and scissors.
You see kids dancing while they're doing STEM and stuff. I mean, this is how the real world works. This is how Silicon Valley works.
Okay, did you see how much slower that still went down than before?
Yeah.
So the improvements that you made were fantastic. Oh my gosh, that is an intense engineering design. That is amazing. That's money right there. That's the money. See you guys later. See you next week.
Right? Learning should be a constant experience. We cannot undervalue the power of that, right? It should be a constant experience. And, you know, I get a chance, I'm going to explore with National Geographic as well, and I get a chance to talk to other explorers. And I purposely would ask this question: what got you into this, right? This research you're doing, or what you're doing around the sciences or STEM plus, what got you into this? Never once is the first answer to say, oh, it's because I like to do a bunch of science or math. That is never the first answer. The first answer typically has to do with either an experience they had, or maybe it was something they saw in person. For example, I spoke with someone who saw glaciers on a family trip in Alaska, and that's when she knew she wanted to do something researching glaciers. Or maybe it's something you hear about, right? We cannot undervalue the power of inspiration. Yes, I know it can't be quantified on a test or an exam or whatever the case may be, but we can't undervalue the power of inspiration. As part of Flying Classroom, we also do specialty builds. Here's an example of one of them. This one we did where we challenged 30 students. This was the first project I ever did in education after flying around the world. We challenged 30 students to build an aircraft from scratch, and they built it in 10 weeks. And these were kids from failing schools right here in Miami, Florida. We go on the next slide. We started to replicate our programs in different parts of the country with continued success. And then you'll see in the next slide, this is part of what really fueled me, right? So here's a picture of me back in the day. And you'll notice that I'm standing there in my brown flight suit. I'm not sure if anyone notices who's standing right next to me, but that's Trayvon Martin. He was in our program, and sadly, he was taken from us before building a race car with us. And that whole experience really pushed me. It did more than push me. It shoved me because I was so upset. I was so angry. And, you know, Trayvon was one of those students that I had a chance to drop to football practice sometimes if I was running to a meeting or something, he needed a ride. And, you know, he kind of had a similar story to me, you know, where he was interested in football, but even more so interested in aviation. You'll see in the next slide. I want to show this picture because there's Trayvon Martin in the middle. He's doing some robotics programs with us. Young man on the left-hand corner of the screen, he's a professional pilot in Europe. Young lady on the right-hand corner in the white shirt, she's a certified airframe and power plant mechanic working on airplanes. And the young lady in the blue shirt, she's a doctor. What would he have become? You know, when I was a teenager, I did a bunch of crazy things, right? And you see in the next slide, this was his original letter into our program that he wrote in middle school. So he said, I believe I should be accepted as a student into this program because I'm very interested in aircrafts, and I'm also dedicated, reliable, and I like to finish what I start. I strive to be the best that I can be to make myself a better person. In my views, I think and hope that this will benefit me towards my future career as an aircraft mechanic or pilot. I was so upset when he was not able to build a race car with us. I just went on a strategic rip through education where, you know, people are saying to me, oh, well, you can't get kids to do that, or you can't get kids to do that. And every time I come back, you know, to this story, you know, one after the other. So you'll see, for example, in the next line, this was the car that he would have been able to build. So we challenge kids, 5th graders through 8th graders, to build a car faster than a Ferrari 430 Spider. and this was the car that they built. We then continued on, you'll see in the next slide, replicating this program. And yeah, so thank you guys. I'm reading some of the comments. Thank you. So, yeah.
If you don't mind if I ask a question right now, Barrington, you know, the Trayvon Martin, I'm just seeing the comments in the chat, and it's just a powerful story about profiling, about stereotyping, and it kind of dovetails nicely into STEM equity. What would you say to the after-school professionals out there who are dealing with these issues with STEM and so on, where you yourself, being a Black male who had to overcome some of these stereotypes and profiling that might have held you back?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing all of us have to deal with is what really is our expectation of these kids, right? I think inadvertently, you know, the conversation we have with a child that we know might be a straight A student or quote unquote have their heads on their shoulders. I think the conversations we have with that type of child versus the conversation we have with kids like me are two very, very different types of conversations. And let me, expectation is everything, right? It is everything. And let me tell you something. We've done a number of car builds and plane builds, and almost all of them have been done in what is called high-risk communities or wherever the case may be. And you know what's one of the most common questions I get as we prepare to build the program and implement it? One of the most common questions I get is around, aren't you concerned about kids stealing the parts? Aren't you concerned that kids might steal the engine or steal the parts of the car? And it really speaks to the expectations educators have for their very own. And I hate to be blunt about it, but this is part of the core problem, right? Where, and I'm not saying folks on the line are part of this problem, but all of us have to stop this problem. And it has to do with the expectations we have for our kids. Because what folks don't realize is, yeah, these kids are building a car worth $250,000, right? Or $150,000 depending on the model. But here's what the adults in the room don't realize. Nobody has ever given one of these kids something worth $250,000 or $500,000. So what do you think is going to happen? These kids are going to protect that. These kids know that a lot of people don't truly believe they can do this. If I said to you, oh, this, you know, a 12-year-old young man just stole a car, you wouldn't be surprised by that, right? But if I said to you, I'm going to take a bunch of 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds and build a car, they're natural. Most of the time, people naturally say, oh, no way. There's just no way that can happen. Why? Because the bar we set for different circumstances is totally different. And that's part of the reason why we don't have expectations. We just, when I say we don't have, well, I shouldn't say we don't have expectations, I'm sorry. We don't set parameters to say, oh, this type of kid can participate in my program and this type of kid can't. We honestly don't care, because at the end of the day, no matter if it's a straight A student or a student that's failing, guess what? They've never had these types of experiences before. We utilize experiences to level the playing field. That's part of our methodology, right? And, you know, I tell kids this all the time. Look, it's important to make great grades. It's important to do well in school. No question. There's things I wish I took seriously in school, like geometry, that I honestly didn't care about. But I'll also tell this side of the story. I'm at a private airport where my offices are based, right? And one of the biggest jokes that guys with $90 million jets, $50 million jets sitting outside is that schools are preparing straight A students to work for me, who was a former F student, D student, C student, to work for me. Right? So there's both sides of the spectrum. And expectation to me, Andrew, is everything.
Barrington, don't hold back. If you see the responses in the chat, you got 20 minutes left. Go for it.
Okay. So, you know, I think, and I appreciate you saying that, Andrew, you know, a lot in education, you know, people ask me all the time, how did you figure this out? How are you getting kids to do these things? How are you getting these results? And there honestly isn't any bias, but kids do realize they have to rise to an expectation, and not only rise to that expectation, but understand how to be resourceful to meet that expectation. We have to let kids fail. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to let kids fail. However, where the weakness comes in within our system is that we do not know how to empower kids when they do fail. That's where, you know, you'll go to conferences and everybody will say, oh, you know, no, we have to, you know, let kids fail and all these. Well, okay, they failed. So what? What happens next? How do you empower them? There has to be real thought and consideration woven within that process. I remember we did a race car build and the kids could not figure out how to do the electrical system. Did we rescue them the day after, the week after? No. We waited 6 months for them to figure out how to wire the electrical system for the car. And they did. But during that process of 6 months, guess what we did? All right, kids, let's start to focus on other things. Let's start to focus on other areas of the car. Let's work backwards. Let's start from the finish line. Very important point. All the adults on the line. Kids don't care about the journey. It's where a lot of adults have it twisted. They do not care about the journey. They care about the destination. We don't say to kids, oh, we want you to use your math skills and science skills to build a car or build an airplane. No, we just say we want you to build a car. Does a child ever ask us the question, well, how much math do I have to learn? Or how much science do I have to learn? No. Why? Because tangibly, they can see the finish line. They understand what it means, even for their minds, and they're younger and they don't have as much experience, but it makes sense. The journey is just a consequence of getting to the destination. So I think in the realm of adults within education, we get all hyped up on the journey kids would take, and, you know, yes, it's important, but they don't care about that. What they care about is the finish line. So we do these different types of builds, and, you know, now we've created a mobile automotive lab as well. You'll see in the next slide. And you'll also see in the next slide, we've, you know, look, I've been blessed business-wise, and I've started to just purchase homes across the country. And I said, well, I'm going to have high school kids restore these multifamily units and turn around and rent them out to teachers for affordable living. We call that program STEMstruction. So there's a lot that we're doing. Let's talk about the future, because I think this is where our educators are struggling, not only with content, but it's very difficult to engage kids when you can't show them what their future is about to look like. So there's a special project that I'm working on with Uber Air. And I first want to play this video and talk about this a bit, because this is going to change everyone's lives that's on this session as it relates to what our future is going to look like in society. So let's go ahead and play this video. You're going to notice this woman. She's talking to her friend, and she calls an Uber, right? However, she does something weird. She starts to walk towards a building. Then she walks inside of the building, get into an elevator. Why would you do that? Well, Uber is about to go airborne. And I can tell you, this isn't hypothetical. This is happening. This technology already exists. These are all electrical vertical takeoff and land vehicles. They call them eVTOLs, half plane, half helicopter. And I'll share more about this, but Uber decided to utilize the tops of buildings to transport people from point A to point B. Why would they do this? One of the things that kills their business is rush hour traffic. So Uber said, why not use the tops of buildings to transport people from point A to point B, get them there much faster, use clean energy, and make a ton of money while you're doing it. This is very real. This is very real. I just can't talk about it because I'm under contract to do a crazy project with Uber Air. Now, I want to show you a little highlight of this. We're going to the next video. We have another Uber video that I want to share with you, and to talk a little bit about this. All right. So in this next video, there's a company that I'm working with called Beta Technologies. This is the reality of the animation. This is one of the aircrafts.
Here at Beta, we're designing and building and deploying electric vertical aircraft. The future of electric flight is inevitable. There are significant cost reductions, and those cost reductions aren't just in the savings of fuel. The increased maintenance and increased service intervals are compelling reasons for our customers to adopt electric aviation. But even more compelling is the versatility of the aircraft. The ability to take off and land vertically is incredibly important to our customers.
This is how we're going to ship organs, packages. They've skipped drones and they're jumping right into it.
Now we've extended a third of the way across the country with our recharging network, and we're going to go further.
That will be on the tops of buildings.
25. We're a mission-driven business consisting of passionate engineers and aviators focused on delivering electric aviation systems to customers. Electric aviation is an important step to turning the corner on climate change. Transportation is a major contributor to greenhouse gases. Aviation is presently 9% of that contribution. We have solutions in cars and trucking and marine. We don't have any solutions in aviation. By 2035, aviation will be the #1 producer of greenhouse gases in transportation. So here at Beta, we're going to make flight greener, safer, and more accessible by leading the world in the transition to electric aviation.
All right, this is very real. But here's my question. How long will it take for that to reach your classrooms? Right? I could give you the answer easily. Probably won't reach you all till maybe another 10 to 12 years. This is part of the problem with the cycle between industry and the education system in colleges, right? These things don't happen fast enough, but our industries are evolving in a rapid manner. For example, coding is important. Coding is absolutely important. It's an important skill. It's an important skill. But quick question, is coding going to be a job requirement in the future? Nope. I've been to Verizon's Innovative Center, Ford's Innovative Center, a number of other different innovative centers across the country. Here's the difference. Coding is now about to become automated. It already is automated, right? Where it can talk to itself and develop upon itself. But when will that message ever reach education? These are some of the challenges and stuff we're, trying to overcome at Flying Classroom and sharing. Well, it's more than just sharing the glitz. It's more than just sharing, oh man, that's amazing. It's sharing things in a practical manner that allows students to want to explore STEM Plus in a real world way. So, I'm glad I had a chance to share a little bit of that with you all. Andrew, I don't know if there's any other questions your folks may have.
We have about 9 minutes, and I definitely want to encourage people to put stuff in the Q&A, but I kind of want to follow up on, while we're letting questions generate in the chat, I just want to follow up, somebody, I appreciate Kentrell talk about raising the bar, so innovative. You talked about, having the discipline to let your students find the answer. And what I mean by not giving them the answer. And it's almost like you're stressing a theme of patience. And that's very hard to do as a classroom teacher when you're under with the clock hanging over your head, the 15-minute lessons plans. But in essence, you're really highlighting the beauty of an after-school program where you have that freedom to be patient with your students and let them find the answer, and not just, like you said, just the pressure of it and just give it to them and go, okay. I mean, the patience for 6 months to work with them to find the answer.
Yeah. It takes patience, but you know what else it takes is orchestration. And I get it. The workload is tremendous for a number of educators. I get it. But orchestration is everything. Knowing that kids are most likely going to struggle with this or that and being able to orchestrate around it. It is honestly everything, because you have to expect that, okay, if my student is going to have a problem with this, how do I actually empower them to solve it? And you're not going to figure it out overnight, right? This goes into part of your planning. And this is honestly where teachers should have the ability to spend more time planning, because memorizing things have been proven to have, quite honestly, little effectiveness, right? But when you can show young people how to practically think through things and get to that resolution, it's like, for example, math. Why do a lot of kids hate math? I hated math when I was in school, right? It wasn't until I understood math as a language where I was like, hold on, well, what is the equation really trying to ask me to solve for it? Like, practically, how does it work? It wasn't until I understood math was a language, it made a total difference for me. And yes, that is the power of dynamic educators and so forth, but we can't just depend on the dynamic and amazing educators. These things have to be made universal in a manner of training or professional development, or the ability for more educators to actually experience STEM. That's part of what we do at Flying Classroom, is we do teacher expeditions. We're not going to be doing conferences and have you sit down in a ballroom for all these hours. And so get educators out there, get them experiencing STEM in a real world practical manner. And yeah, I'll shut up, Andrew.
Oh, please don't, Barrington. I don't know if you see, you've got yes, 3 exclamation points from Venus Claybrooks at Renew Schools in New Orleans. You also have in the chat, Cynthia Gatson up in North Louisiana with Union Parish Schools just said, we just talked about this yesterday in our planning session for the new year. allowing students to struggle.
Yep. It's to me, it's everything. It honestly is. And because what's happening is kids today, they don't have to think as much. And that is part of the consequence of technological advancements. Kids do not have to think as much. And, you know, for all of you who have comments, I know some have to log off, please feel free to email me, reach out to us at Flying Classroom. We're more than happy to speak further with you all. But we have to get kids to become thinkers, because that's when it all makes sense. We can't just depend upon memorization. And this is the other thing too. We believe in the engineering design process. There is more than one way to solve for something. That's how it works in the real world. In the real world, if there's an RFP or a bid or whatever the case may be, there's more than one way to solve a problem. And we have to figure out ways to encourage that. And the engineering design process allows you to do that.
Well, we're having some other comments in here. Save the best for last.
Thank you, guys.
Truly enjoyed this presentation. Yes, I encourage everyone to reach out to Barrington. Any other questions or comments? We got 3 minutes here. I know you've already been over to Louisiana and toured some schools. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so we basically started a pilot program with the RISE schools, and I know we're gearing up for a few others this summer. And we want to continue being involved within the communities of Louisiana, not just the major areas, but the rural areas. And we honestly, we just love working with folks who want to create change in their communities. And I see Ms. Jenkins just posted a comment too as well. So go ahead, Ms. Jenkins.
Hey, I just wanted to say hello and thank you for this wonderful session Saturday. Thanks to Andrew and team for being able to work things out and get you on. And I just want to show, tell people this is what it says. You have educators here together on a Saturday morning when there are so many other things that could be going on. But in Louisiana, we care about our children. We want to do the best for our children. And I think this is a huge step that we could take to be in the forefront of what is going on in STEM. And so I just wanted to extend, thank you to you for this presentation, to Andrew and team for putting this conference together. It has truly been worthwhile the last few days. And just tell everybody, thank you for the work that you do for our children in Louisiana.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for those kind words, Kenya. I couldn't think of a better way to close this conference off than with Captain Barrington Irving joining us this morning. Kenya Jenkins, Dr. Terry Bird, Dr. Lindsay Keith Vince at the Mott Foundation for all working hard and putting this thing together. Captain, would you like to close us out?
No, I just like to say anyone who wants to reach out to us, collaborate with us, please feel free to email me or visit flyingclassroom.com. And look, I hope you all understand some of the key fundamentals and points that really makes the world of difference for students. And that's what it's about. Yes, we've given time and attention to testing. Yes, we've given time and attention to rigor and so forth. And we all, remember what Thanos told the Avengers? All that work to come back at the same point, right? What exactly do I mean when I say that? If we can't inspire these kids, it don't matter what we do, you're never going to achieve the same level of vested interest and commitment. So that's all I just want to say. Thank you once again to the folks who have made this possible. And I truly look forward to meeting some of you in person and doing this again. So thank you so much.
So there you have it. He put his email address out there. I encourage you all to reach out. I also want to remind everybody that all of the presentations for this conference are uploaded to the conference website, and then we will also put them on our network's YouTube channel for you to access them if you want to follow up with staff about certain points that Captain made today. I encourage you to do that as well. We will also be reaching out to everyone via survey. We want to hear your feedback. Any feedback is appreciated. What sessions did you like? What sessions, topics did you think was missing? Thank you all for joining us today on the Saturday. Captain, have fun out there in Florida and hope you enjoy the rest of your day soaking up that Florida sun.
Thank you. Blue skies, everyone, and blessings to you all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care.